Alright, Stallions, I'm going to go ahead and do the Asia test or study guide test. So if you need to follow along, please do take out your study guide and make sure that you follow what I'm doing. Now, there's two versions of the study guide, so I went ahead and labeled number 1 through 12. So we're going to start with the physical features. I'm going to go ahead and draw them in on the map, and you can make sure that your map is complete as well. So if I look back, I have number 1, which is the Ganges River. So the Ganges River runs in India. I'm going to change my color. Now you're going to just estimate it. And I'm going to go ahead and do an arrow and write the Ganges. Actually, just for the pure sake that I cannot write with this pen, I'm just going to write number 1. Now you need to make sure, I repeat, you need to make sure that you actually label it correctly on your map. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the Pacific Ocean. So if I look at the Pacific Ocean, that is located near Japan in the region all the way to the west of it. So this would be the Pacific Ocean. My next one following that is number 3, which number 3 for us is going to be Siberia. Siberia takes up the northern region of Russia. So I'm going to get, again, estimated to the best of my abilities. Oh, a little more. Now again, it is an estimation. So I'm going to estimate it right here. And it does feed a little bit into Russia a little bit. So on my key, which I'll go ahead and do, actually, okay, I paused it real quick just to make a key on the side. So I'm going to go ahead and write, actually, okay, sorry about that. I had to pause because I went ahead and made my key. I'm going to go ahead and put the blue equals the Siberia. Again, I know that my penmanship is bad. Just go ahead and make sure that you're following along. Okay, so we went ahead and did Siberia. We're going to go ahead and do the Himalayan Mountains. Now, the Himalayan Mountains is located on some borders of countries. I'm going to change this to, let's go ahead and do black. So it borders India, Nepal, China, and those other countries. In my key, I'm going to do my little black mountains, and this equals the Himalaya Mountains. Okay, we're done with the Himalayas. We're going to go ahead and go to the Persian Gulf. Now, the Persian is located near the peninsula, the Arabian Peninsula. So I'm going to go ahead and let me see the best way to do this. Let's go ahead and color it green. So my green represents the Persian Gulf. Okay. That brings us into number 6, the Ural Mountains. Now, we also tested on the Ural Mountains whenever we did Europe, so we should be familiar with those. It actually borders Europe and Russia, so I'm going to estimate it. It's kind of a Kazakhstan. Here we go. So I have red, which equals the Ural Mountains. Okay. My next one, Ural Mountains, is complete. We have the Indian Ocean south of India. So I'm just going to write it in. This area is the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is complete. Now we're going to go ahead and do the Plateau of Tibet. The Plateau of Tibet. You're going to need to draw in as well, so I'm going to go ahead and mark this red. It's directly above the Himalayas, so I'm going to estimate it again. It is an estimation. And I'm going to do my circle. I'm going to have it colored in, and this equals the Plateau of Tibet. There we go. Alright, we're done with the Plateau of Tibet. Now I need to do the Yellow River. Now the Yellow River feeds out of the Yellow Sea. So, bless you. I'm going to go ahead and go here. and do an arrow. This is the Yellow River. I'm going to go ahead and mark, what was the next one, the Yellow Sea? No, let's go ahead and just stay in order. So I have Lake Baltic, so that's located in Russia. Color that in. I'm just going to do an arrow instead of writing on my key. Okay. Now, our last two, Sea of Japan and the Yellow Sea, they're located right by each other. So I'm going to go ahead, color this region, and I'm going to do my colored in my key, which equals the Yellow Sea. And then the Sea of Japan, I'm going to go ahead and write it in. Oh my goodness, that is horrible. Let me go ahead and just do an arrow and then right there on the side. Sea of Japan. Awesome. Okay, guys, this was the physical features part. I know that it looks a little messy, but I did make a key, which you should do as well. I did label everything on the side if it's not a part of my key. Now, you have to remember on your test that you need to make sure that you draw these things in. All right? So I'm going to leave it right here for a quick 5 seconds, and I'm going to erase everything because the next thing we're going to do is our countries. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and do section 2, and I've realized that on your map, on your study guide, and then the one that I have here, might not correlate, so make sure that you follow the key that I'm about to do. So I have China, A, North Korea, B, Vietnam, C, India, D, Philippines, E, Indonesia, I, Russia, G, Japan, H, South Korea, I, Malaysia, J, Taiwan, K, Nepal, L, and then Thailand, M. So I'm going to go back to my map. I'm going to go ahead and erase all this good stuff. And let's go ahead and go, China is A. So China is located in this region, A. I have North Korea, which is B. So North Korea is on the northern side of that little peninsula. That is B, North Korea. I have C, which is Vietnam. Vietnam's located on the edge of this region. So C, that is Vietnam. I have D, which is India, so we're going to put a D for India. I have an E, which is the Philippines. Now the Philippines I'm going to circle. And I'm going to go ahead. What letter was that again? I'm sorry, it was E. Indonesia, again, is a bunch of archipelagos as well, so I'm going to circle it. Oh, sorry, wrong circle. That I need to get that region right here, and then this would be I, right? Am I correct? I'm sorry, the Philippines is E. Let me erase that. This would be E. Alright, I have Russia, that's next, which is G. So Russia is going to be located in this region, which is G. And then I have also I, which is South Korea. I'm going to go ahead and do an arrow and write I. It's located here. J is going to go ahead and be Malaysia. So Malaysia's in this region. Just to make sure that I don't mess it up, I'm going to go ahead and do this in purple. So Malaysia is directly above Indonesia. So again, that was J. Now my next one is Taiwan. Taiwan's that little island off the coast of China. So this will go ahead and be Taiwan, K. Nepal is next, which is directly above India. Nepal, which is L. And is that all of them? L, oh, we still have Thailand, which Thailand is M. So Thailand is the opposite. Let's is right here, which was what letter? Thailand was, oh my goodness, can't remember these. M. So M is right here. All right, guys. So you should have already had your Asian map from the beginning of the unit. Just make sure, and you should already have everything labeled. This is just to make sure that you have everything correct. So again, I went ahead into the physical features. We went ahead into the countries. Just make sure that yours is good. So we are done with section 1 and section 2. Let's go ahead and talk about the next ones, and I'm not going to write these down because I cannot write with this, but if you are following along, just listen and write down your answers if you are missing them. So number 3. Is desertification of the Gobi Desert an example of adaptation or modification, and why? So the first thing that you have to know is desertification. So we know that desertification is a process in which fertile land becomes desert. So it's the increase of desert, and that's what's happening in the Gobi Desert as it's increasing. So if we are talking about the Gobi Desert, and if it's an example of adaptation or modification, now we have to remember those terms. Adaptation is that you're changing things about yourself, your needs to fit the environment. Modification, you're changing your environment to fit your needs. So if I have the process in which fertile land is becoming desert, I, as a person, or we as people, need to adapt to our surrounding. So the Gobi Desert is an example of adaptation because if you're living in that region, you have to learn to adjust. Number 4, why was the Grand Canal built in China? Now, the Grand Canal is the longest man-made canal in the region, or in the world, and it takes the span of China, and the whole purpose behind it was to transport goods, specifically rice. So the main reason why that canal was built was to make sure that they were able to transport goods. And back in the day, the main reason was food, which was rice. Number 5, terrace farming. Define terrace farming and explain how it's used in Asia. So we already learned about terrace farming. The first time was in South America. Now, terrace farming, again, is whenever you have a slope, whether it be a hill or a mountain, and you change it by making these steps. Now, these steps are for the purpose of farming because it catches the water and it holds it there for agriculture purposes. So in Asia, they have a lot of rice fields. So making those steps and making that flat land and then having those different tiers, they're able to hold a lot of water to hold that rice. So if I'm talking about changing the land to require those steps, that is an example of adaptation. I apologize, modification. Again, terrace farming is a prime example of modification because we change the environment. And I don't believe I said that for number 4. Since the canal is man-made, anything that's man-made is going to be modification because we are changing the environment. It was not there before. We had to change it, modify it to fit human needs. Okay, that is it for that section. Let's go ahead and talk about number 6. Nope, you're not going to work with me? Oh. All right, that's the map. Let's go ahead and talk about 6. We are talking about government systems. Now we have 4 different types of government systems that we're going to talk about. North Korea, South Korea, China, and Japan. So let's go ahead and go one by one. I'm going to start off with North Korea. So the type of government that North Korea has is a totalitarian communist state. Now that means that a dictator, a one-man dictator rules that country. Now, if we are looking at the leader, the supreme leader is Kim Jong-un. He is the dictator, and he is the supreme leader. Now, what is life like that for the people that live there? Now, since they are under a dictatorship, they have the government calling all the shots. The laws, they determine how everything is ran. Now, this causes the freedom of the citizens to be oppressed, or meaning that they don't have so much. Now, the government decides where they live, where they work, where they go to school, where they can travel. They do not have a freedom of speech. So in that type of government system, there's only so much that they can do. And which is different because if you look at their neighbors, which are South Korea, now they are the complete opposite. If I'm going to go ahead and look at their type of government, they are a republic, meaning that they vote for representatives to make their laws and to speak for them. Okay, so they have a Republican a republic type of democracy. If I'm looking at their leader, since it is a representative democracy, they vote for their representative, and their leader would be a president. Now, their president at the moment is Moon Jae-in, Jae-in. Now, since they are a republic, the citizens there have freedom and have civil rights. So the government respects their civil rights, the people's civil rights and human rights. Now, there are some issues just like everywhere else, but as far as their rights, they have a lot more than their neighbor North Korea. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about China. So China is unique in the fact that they have a communist state, which is, well, it is a economic system, communism, but that kind of controls their government as well, and which is ran by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Now, since that is a group of people, the type of government they have is an oligarchy. A small group of people that run the country. So it is an oligarchy, and they have a president. So their leader is Xi Jinping, which I apologize if I did not say that right. I'll go ahead and write it as best as I can. Jinping. Awesome. And what is life there for people? Well, it is ran by an oligarchy, so you have those people that do tell their citizens what they do. The party controls many aspects of the people's life, like what they learn in school, what they watch on TV, their job and housing, even the number of children that they are allowed to have. So they are kind of controlling in somewhat of a way. Now, the Chinese people have been criticized around the world, but they are trying to better their system. For example, they have the National Human Rights Action Plan of China, which aims to expand democracy and the rule of millions of people that live there in China. Okay. We're on my last one, Japan. Now, Japan, if we're looking at their type of government, they have a parliamentary democracy with a constitutional monarchy. So again, a monarchy, there's two different types, absolute and constitutional. Now, absolute's kind of leaning more towards the way of a totalitarian, kind of. And then we have constitutional that still listens to the people and still has a piece of paper, which is a constitution, to base their laws and to work upon. So if I look at their leaders, they actually have two. Their prime minister, which I'm going to go ahead and spell his name because I'm not going to say that right. Shinzo Abe. Now that is their prime minister, but since they are also in monarchy, they actually have an emperor as well. So their emperor is Akihito. Oh, let me spell that as well because I'm pretty sure I pronounced his name incorrectly. There we go. Again, they have two different types. They have their prime minister and they also have their emperor. If I look at the way that their people's lives are lived there, now because they are influenced by American, they kind of run towards a democracy side, and now they have a constitution which has a Bill of Rights as well. So the government has limits on what they could do. So therefore, the people that live there have civil rights and freedoms. Now, they still have free elections, and it's fair. Citizens have equal rights. Women are represented in public office. So if I look at Japan, they're kind of similar to here in the States. All right. So that's going to go ahead and we're going to be done with section 6. Let's go ahead and talk about 7, which is we're going back into culture, which is talking about our two religions that we learned in this region, which is Buddhism and Hinduism. So the very first one that we're going to talk about is Buddhism. So if I'm looking at the founder was Siddhartha Gautama. Now, he was actually called the Buddha eventually, but he was at first a prince, and then he was the founder of the Buddhist religion. If I'm looking at their sacred text, their sacred text is called the Tripitaka. Now, that is their sacred text. Their ultimate goal is to reach nirvana, so they believe in reincarnation, and they're going to be reincarnated until they collect enough good karma to reach nirvana. Now, their 2 holidays that are important are Obon, which is celebrated in Japan, and Vesak, which is spelled Fesak, which is a Buddhist holiday, and it is celebrated whenever the life of Buddha himself, his birth, his enlightenment, and then his death. So those are the holidays for Buddhism. Let's go ahead and jump into Hinduism. So if we're looking at the founders, there's no specific founders. Their sacred text is the Vedas. If I'm looking at their ultimate goal, like Buddhism, they believe in reincarnation, so they want to live their best life to go ahead and accumulate enough good karma, and they want to reach their end goal, which is moksha. Now they escape from the cycle of reincarnation. And if I want to look at their 2 holidays, their holidays are Holi, which celebrates springs, and Diwali, which is the festival of lights. So that is it for our 2 sections there. Let's go ahead and talk about 8, which then we're done. So 8, it's talking about the caste system. So the following image shows the caste system of ancient India. In 3 to 5 sentences, explain what the caste system was and how it's significant to India today. So today, it is actually not here. It was abolished, but it still has some effects in contemporary time. So let's explain the historical part of it, though. So if we're talking about the caste system, a person, when they are born, they were born into a certain social status. Based on their social status determines what tier they are in. So you have these tiers, and your end goal, because this is based off of Hinduism religion, is to reach your moksha. Now, they believe that if you were in those top tiers, the Brahmins, you would be closer to reaching your end goal, which is moksha. So the person's goal, if they are part of this caste system, if they're in those lower ends, like for example, if they're part of the untouchables, which is also known as the Dalits, which is this bottom part, which is a pariah, if they're part of that, they want to live a good life because they want to, whenever they pass away, they want to be reincarnated. And if they live a good life and they accumulate or collect enough good karma, it is ideal that they would move up in their next life to a better caste system. So they want to go ahead and reach those tiers to move up in their next life, not during their life, because you cannot move caste systems during your lifetime. Only if you pass away and you're reincarnated to another one, is to reach moksha. Now, these tiers determine the way your life was ran. They determine the people you talk to. They determine who you marry, because you couldn't marry outside your caste system. They determine the rights and the freedoms that you have, depending on which tier you are. The higher you are, the more privileges you have. The lower you are, the less privileges or freedoms that you have. So the reason why it was abolished or disbanded or completely eliminated was for the pure fact that it did have discrimination against people. For example, the untouchables, you literally could not touch them for fear of being contaminated. So the government went ahead and did away with this caste system. But even though they did away with this caste system, it's still reflected today in today's society in India and those regions around there. Now, they still have those ideologies or those beliefs that if you are less fortunate, that you still should not be looked at as equals in some cases. So it's still reflected in today, but even though it's abolished. All right, that is a 24-minute video going over all these questions. Again, hopefully we're listening to this because I didn't do a lot of typing. If you need to rewind just to go to the sections that you need to review, please do. If you have any questions, please see your social studies teachers. Good luck on your tests. Have a great day. Bye.